In 3 weeks, a comet will fly so close to the sun that it will either become the brightest object in our sky since 1965, or it will be completely destroyed. There is no middle ground. Scientists are watching, and nobody knows which way this ends. What makes this comet different from every other sungrazer is something astronomers call its bloodline. And if MAPS survives what's about to happen next, there's a specific moment when you'll be able to see it with your own eyes, but only if you know exactly where and when to look. On January 13, 2026, a team of French amateur astronomers in Chile spotted a faint smudge drifting through the constellation Columba. At magnitude 17.8, it was invisible to anything but their specialized equipment. But what caught their attention wasn't the brightness, it was the trajectory. This object was falling directly toward the sun on a collision course that would bring it closer to the solar surface than any tracked comet in decades. Within days, orbital calculations revealed something extraordinary. This wasn't just any comet, it belonged to a family. The Kreutz sungrazers are fragments of a single massive comet that broke apart over 2,000 years ago after passing too close to the sun. Aristotle himself may have witnessed the original parent body in 371 BC, when ancient records describe a comet bright enough to cast shadows at night. Over centuries, that shattered giant left behind a trail of descendants, each one eventually spiraling back toward the fire that created them. Some became legends. The Great Comet of 1843 was visible in broad daylight. Ikeya-Seki in 1965 grew a tail spanning 60 degrees across the sky. Others simply vanished, vaporized before anyone could photograph them. And now MAPS is about to join this deadly family reunion. But here's what most reports aren't telling you. The distance this comet will travel from the sun's surface is approximately 99,000 miles. That sounds far until you realize the sun itself is 865,000 miles wide. MAPS will be skimming through the sun's outer atmosphere, the corona, where temperatures exceed 2 million degrees Fahrenheit. The gravitational forces alone will be trying to rip the nucleus apart. At that distance, survival depends entirely on size. Small comets simply evaporate. Their ice sublimates so fast, the entire structure disintegrates before perihelion. Larger comets can hold together just long enough to slingshot around and emerge on the other side. The threshold seems to be somewhere around 1 to 2 miles in diameter. How big is MAPS? Current estimates suggest a nucleus diameter of roughly 1.5 miles, right on the edge, close enough that nobody can say for certain whether it will make it. Remember that bloodline I mentioned earlier? Here's where it matters. MAPS was discovered 81 days before perihelion. That's the earliest any Kreutz sungrazer has ever been spotted. Most are found only days or weeks before they reach the sun, often by spacecraft watching for solar activity. Finding one this early, this far out, while it was still over 300 million kilometers from the sun, suggests something important. This is a big one. Active, outgassing heavily even at that distance. Czech astronomer Jakub Černou analyzed the brightness curve and concluded that MAPS is likely a mid-sized Kreutz comet, fainter than the legendary Ikeya-Seki at the same stage, but brighter than Comet Lovejoy in 2011. And Lovejoy survived. Barely. That's the benchmark everyone is watching. On December 16, 2011, Comet Lovejoy plunged through the solar corona at a distance of just 87,000 miles from the sun's surface. NASA scientists gave it essentially zero chance of survival. Television crews joked it would be vaporized like a snowball in hell. The Solar Dynamics Observatory recorded the comet disappearing behind the sun, and then, against all odds, emerging on the other side. It had lost most of its tail. Its nucleus had fractured, but it was still there. Astronomers called it a Christmas miracle. MAPS will pass slightly farther out than Lovejoy did. That's good, but MAPS also appears to be smaller. That's bad. The math is brutal and binary. So what happens if it survives? This is the part you need to pay attention to. On April 4th, around 1400 hours Universal Time, MAPS will whip around the sun at speeds exceeding 2 million miles per hour. If the nucleus holds together, something remarkable will happen in the hours that follow. The comet will be moving away from the sun at incredible velocity, but from Earth's perspective, it will be rising higher in the western sky each evening after sunset. The best viewing window is April 5th through April 10th. During that period, observers in the southern hemisphere will have the clearest sightlines, especially during evening twilight, but anyone in the northern hemisphere with an unobstructed western horizon after sunset has a chance too. The comet's tail could stretch 10 degrees or more. That's roughly the width of your fist held at arm's length. It will appear as a ghostly, pencil-thin streak pointing away from where the sun just set. Some projections suggest peak brightness around magnitude -16. For context, the full moon is magnitude -12.7. Venus at its brightest is -4.6. If those numbers hold, maps could briefly outshine everything in the night sky except the sun itself, potentially visible in broad daylight, potentially casting faint shadows after dark, potentially. That word carries a lot of weight right now. Comets are notoriously unpredictable. They can flare unexpectedly. They can fizzle without warning. They can shatter into fragments that each develop their own tails, creating a celestial fireworks display nobody anticipated. The last Kreutz sungrazer that generated this much anticipation was C2024 S1 Atlas in late 2024. It fragmented before perihelion. The show never happened. Before that, Comet Isen in 2013 was called the Comet of the Century until it disintegrated within hours of reaching the sun. Maps could follow the same path into oblivion, or it could become the brightest comet most people alive today have ever witnessed in their lifetime. The equipment you need depends on timing. Before April 4th, MAPS is a telescope-only target, hovering around magnitude 8 to 10 as it drops toward the horizon each evening. A computerized mount helps because finding a dim, fuzzy patch in twilight is challenging. After perihelion, assuming survival, binoculars may be enough, or just your eyes. There's something almost philosophical about watching a piece of a comet that shattered when Rome was still a republic, now returning to the fire that broke it apart in the first place. 2,000 years of drifting silently through the void, one violent, brilliant moment that will determine everything. If you remember Ikeya-Seki from 1965, you already know what's possible. You know what it looks like when a sungrazer wins. Mark your calendar now, April 5th through 10th, Western Horizon, just after sunset, and hope that when MAPS finally meets the sun, it's the comet that walks away. The cosmos has been quietly building toward this very moment for 20 centuries. We get to watch the ending.